Welcome to the B2B Legend Show by OneFlow. I'm Josephine, your host, and on this show we dive into the stories behind some of the legends in the B2B world. Each episode we chat with industry leaders to explore their journeys, challenges and insights. Today we're joined by Brontén, CEO and founder of Membrain. In this episode we'll talk about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, why great sales teams focus on process, coaching and continuous learning, and growth, both in business and professional development. Hello everyone, today we have Brontén here, founder of Membrain. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invitation. Nice to be here.
Very happy to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to get to know you and also your career journey. So let's just jump right into it. So why don't you walk us through from your early days and to how you ended up to where you are today?
My early days, that goes back a long time. Well, I'm Brontén, as you mentioned. I'm born and raised in Stockholm, although my mother is actually German, so I'm half German. 2 kids living in Stockholm, and my career journey, well, it actually started out with a passion for loudspeakers, believe it or not. I really was passionate about speakers, and I thought I wanted to become a speaker engineer, like design the best possible speakers in the world. However, I kind of realized after a while that I liked it more to listen to the speakers than to actually build them. So after working for a short while in a loudspeaker store, I was offered a job to sell the For Dummies books. I don't know if you've ever seen those yellow For Dummies books. They were very popular back then in the 90s, at least. So I went in my car driving to different bookstores and sold these books. And then after, I don't know, a year or so, they offered me a management job. And it was less pay, more responsibility. So I quit and started my first company, which then led to the next company and to the next company where I am today at Membrain.
Okay, wow. So you kind of very early on ended up in the kind of entrepreneurial path.
Yep.
And what was it there like a specific moment or a specific experience that kind of led you into that?
Yeah, I think there were several. I've realized, like, after a number of years trying to understand who I am, that I place a lot of weight in freedom. So I wanted to have, the freedom of how I spend my time and what I want to do. So I think that was really what drove me to start my own company. It was also really early back. This was 95-ish, I think. So internet, the World Wide Web, it was like new back then. So that was also a trigger. I saw, okay, this is an opportunity. This will be big. But in my first endeavor wasn't very intelligent. I started a portal for dentists because one of my brothers is a dentist, and we sold web pages to the suppliers to the dentists, which was, I mean, I should have done the market research. Nobody knew what the internet was even, so
Yeah.
it was a very hard sell. But yeah, that's how it all got started. It was a or a portal for dentists, and that then led to a web agency called Upstream, because my life motto is to challenge the mainstream, which is why the first company was called Upstream.
So was it like the direction of software? Was that really because of the internet coming, or was it like a different kind of, did you have an interest in software previously?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we started this web agency for the dentists, which was basically impossible to make any money from. So that led to us designing and building websites for other companies. And a designer joined me called Björn, and he was helping me out. But when we got our first office location, it was in the basement in Hammarbyhöjden, so in the middle of nowhere. We found a very cheap office, and we had to buy internet, and back then you paid you paid basically for a line. It was an ISDN line, so we thought back then it was fantastically fast, but it was very expensive, and we could only afford one connection. So Björn was very upset because I was the one with the connection, and he was the designer, and he needed to browse the web to get inspiration and such. So, but I said, well, we don't have any money for a second line. So the way I got into software was really, I tried to solve this problem, and I found a piece of software from New Zealand, a guy in New Zealand who built this software in his dorm room, by which installing it on the PC that had the internet connection, you could share the connection. So you didn't have to buy another internet connection. You could use the same internet connection by using this piece of software. And I was like blown away. I thought, this is amazing. I mean, everybody needs this. So that's how I got into software. Like, one guy can build this thing, and it sort of saves you money and makes the life easier. So that's how we started selling software, and how Upstream, my previous company, became a software distributor.
Okay. Well, love that story. It's really, really nice to hear. And starting, your own company is challenging, to say the least. But what was it also that kind of made you do it again and again? What was it that you kind of fell in love with starting a company?
I think what drives me, as I mentioned, is challenging the mainstream. So if I see something which is not working the way it ought to be working, or it could be done better, that entrepreneurial nerve kicks in, and I want to figure out if we can do it better. So in Upstream, and that's maybe can explain a little bit what drives that decision to start a new company. But I struggled in Upstream to scale the company. So I hired a lot of salespeople, but I fired a lot of salespeople too. So I was hiring and firing, and this, as you know, costs a lot of money. It costs headaches and heartaches, and it's not fun. So after a lot of hiring and firing and being upset about the situation, I had to really sit down and think about it. Like, what's the problem? I mean, are the recruiters crap? Are the people crap? Or am I crap? And of course, the result was that I'm the only common denominator. So I'm the crap in the equation. So I had to figure out, okay, why am I not being successful in ramping up new salespeople? And that's when I started nerding down in sales. Like, what is sales all about? How is sales done? I joined all the networks I could of sales directors and sales managers, and read all the books. And really, I started realizing that I had made a lot of faulty assumptions, that somehow salespeople are born, salespeople are, have certain traits, and if you don't have them, you have to find another one who has them. And also that selling is very different. I mean, if you're selling a very simple product on the phone to a private person and you can close the deal in one call, that's very different from selling something like we sell, a system that needs to be integrated into the organization and multiple stakeholders. So there's different complexity in sales. And I think this was the aha moment for me when I realized that what we were selling in Upstream was quite complex. But I was looking for traits in salespeople that was, more transactional. So all of these things led me to see that, okay, I'm having this problem, but not just me. Everybody basically in B2B has the same problem. They're struggling to ramp up salespeople, lots of hiring and firing, people not reaching their quota, and the systems built to support them, the CRMs, are a part of the problem, because they're also basically designed on that assumption that people should know what to do and just log what they've done. So that was like, wow, this must be done better. So that was sort of the trigger to start Membrain, which is the company that I'm now working for.
And that has that initial vision changed, like since you started Membrain and where it is today?
Yeah, I would say everything changes all the time based on competition and how technology evolves and when the product evolves. So yes, it is changing. I think the main vision hasn't changed, and this is fun when you're developing a product. I mean, you have this vision where you want it to be, and you think it's going to go fast, but it takes a lot of time. So we're still not really, we're not there. My initial vision, we're not there yet. It's going to take some years. But what's fun is that the vision expands, right? So I would say today, my vision is bigger than it was when we started, but we still haven't realized the initial vision. So yes and no, I guess.
Yes, no. And you talked about how there was a struggle hiring sales team in the previously. So what are some like common mistakes that you see sales team face today? And how do you think that they can overcome those challenges?
I think the main sort of struggles that we find in sales and selling and sales management are the same as they were 40, 50, 10, 20 years ago. A lot has, of course, changed. I mean, the internet changed everything. So buyers can find all the information and yada, yada. We all know that. And AI is coming. So that it's easier, maybe, to find some information. But it's also harder, much harder for the buyer to understand differences between vendors and solutions and people and everything. So I'd say that the general problem is still these false assumptions that I made, that salespeople are kind of born, you have to be in a certain way, and another big problem is if you're a good salesperson, you often get promoted into a manager, which probably is not the best thing to do. There's a lack of process and structure around selling. There's often, not a very clear strategy. There's so many issues in selling that have been around for decades. So I always get back to the basics, and those basics we have to sort of solve before we can move on to the next big thing. And another issue I think we're facing is in the world of technologies, that they're always a shiny object. And right now it's AI, right? So everybody needs AI. It's so cool. It's going to solve world hunger and everything. And maybe it will. But in sales, as long as a person is communicating with another person and other people, it's a people-to-people business. And you need to learn how to do that. And it's not so simple because human beings are complicated and complex by nature, and throw more people into a decision and it just becomes so much more complicated.
Yeah, it's really like, well, talked with a lot of salespeople, it's really like you have to keep that human touch with AI. But how do you think that AI will kind of help the sales profession in the future? Do you think that it can, which kind of space in sales do you think it can automate or help?
Yeah, I think transactional sales, for sure, it's going to be completely automated. I mean, it's all basically is already. So that's going to continue. In the more, complex sales, I'm not sure I like the word, but, longer sales cycles, bigger risks for customers. I like the word co-pilot. I think marketing has done a pretty good job with that. So it's almost like you have a co-pilot that you can ask, and computers are really good at looking at a lot of data. So research and finding information and digesting lots of information into, smaller pieces that you can understand. I think that's going to be great. Possibly in marketing and customer success also, where you could, but this I say with some hesitation because it can also mess things up. And we've seen that with outbound, with SDR automation, where you send out, millions of emails and you're hoping that you're going to get some responses. And that could worsen with AI, but hopefully also improve if you do it right. So it's like everything. When you have new technology, you could use it in a good way, or you could use it in a bad way. And as soon as we try to take shortcuts, I think that's when it goes wrong. But if you use it as a co-pilot or something that can help you become a better salesperson, that's great. And that, I think that's something we're going to see more of.
Yeah. Agree. And I want to move back to kind of your entrepreneurial journey. And as every career, you experience ups and downs. So what have been some of the kind of setbacks or learning moments that you have had during your career?
Oh, many. The hiring and firing part was
Yeah.
maybe the most painful one, because
Mm.
it's always fun to hire someone, but it's never fun to fire someone.
Yeah.
So that was really painful, and I guess finding out that I was the problem was a bit painful, but also helpful. um, Otherwise, I think it's from an entrepreneurial perspective, it's timing. Timing is so hard, because if you have an idea like this is something we can improve, and this has happened many times in my previous company. I've found a piece of technology that's sort of really ahead of its time and really intelligent, really smart, that can do things much better. But if people are not sort of open to the idea, or happy enough with the status quo, they're not going to change, right? They're not going to care. So timing, I think, is a really big issue to get. You can have the best product in the world, but if you're 5 years too early, nobody will buy it. But if you wait 10 years, everybody's using it, and you're like, what the hell? I told everyone like a long time ago, but nobody wanted to listen. So it's really, I think, timing is hard. In my previous company, I sold other companies' products. And some painful learnings there was when you introduce a new product to the market, it's quite costly. You need to put energy into it. You need to market it. You need to sell it. You need to support it. And then all of a sudden, it happened a few times that a company came and bought or acquired that company. And all of a sudden, we were not needed as a local distributor anymore. So I've had some really bad experiences with venture capital and private equity, or mainly venture capital, that come in and buy companies, and they want to, explode them and make them, grow much faster, and they have their own ideas. And that's really, I've seen a lot of companies go under. They get acquired. The founders get a bunch of money, and they stay for as long as they have to, and then they leave, and then everything sizzles out. So those would be probably my most negative, sort of painful memories from entrepreneurships.
And on the other side, what are some of the achievements that you are most proud of?
I think when you get people to gather around an idea, and work towards the same goal, and that supports their own individual, personal development. So they grow by joining the team and working on this vision. That's, to me, is sort of golden. That's so fun to see. And I've always worked with a channel, so with channel partners. In my previous company, there were IT resellers, and now they're sales development experts, sales trainers, those kind of partners. And that's also, really satisfying when you can find partners who agree and see the vision and want to join the vision, and you build this on a global scale. So I guess building communities or building teams around a shared vision and building something. I think it's all about building something that is better than the competition. It's even more fun from my perspective when the competition is Microsoft or Salesforce and the big players. So yeah, good to be competing with the big ones sometimes.
Love that. And if you were to give one advice to people starting off in their career, what would that be? What would that be then?
Ooh, yeah, one advice. That's a narrow question, but I think one thing that I realized later on in life was my values, like how much I value freedom, for instance. But back when I started, I didn't think about. I mean, I was completely free. I had no family, I had no kids, I had no job, basically. So I thought everything was about making money. but after you have money, you realize that, oh, the money is just, something you need to get freedom. So understanding your core values, I would spend some time on that, and I would make sure I get a coach and maybe also a mentor, who's been there, done that, and can help you navigate and understand yourself and what is really important to you, so you don't get too nitty-gritty into details that might not be the thing, like chasing rainbows or what they say in English. But really understand yourself and invest in yourself. Invest much more than you think would be reasonable. Like really do invest. Read everything, listen to everything, and go outside your space. Like listen to stuff. Psychology is super important in sales. Like you should read psychology. Listen to those kind of podcasts, not just sales people or sales leaders or sales gurus. Sorry, long rant on one advice.
No, love it. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to look more ahead in the B2B sales and software space. If we're going to say apart from AI, what do you think is the next kind of big change that companies need to prepare for in the sales space then?
Yeah, I think you need to prepare for everything becoming even harder. It's going to become harder to sell, and the competition is getting tougher all the time. So positioning is always a big thing, and it's going to continue to be a big thing. Like, how are you different? Why should we pick you? People are stressed out, so their attention spans are getting shorter. So you need to build trust. And this is what selling is about, really. Build trust with someone to quickly understand what they can improve, how you can help them get there, and why they should choose you as their partner. And in order to sort of combat that higher complexity or tougher landscape, from my perspective, you need to invest in your people. Sure, you need AI, and you can use technology to a big extent, but it's your people that need to get better. You need to upskill your people. You need to drive behavior shifts in your people. So this is why we push now a lot on coaching. People need coaches. They need mentors, and they need to learn faster than the people working for your competition.
Love that. And where do you see yourself and Membrain in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so we are releasing a new product fairly soon, in about 1 week actually from now, which is all about coaching and performance management and upskilling. So that's going to be a big focus for us moving forward. And 5 years we should have tripled the growth of the company and doubled the ARR per employee, I would say, in top of mind what I would like to see. So from a company perspective, and just grow the network of, as I mentioned, grow the partner network globally, get more people rallied around our vision, and strengthen our team.
Sounds good. Yeah, and to kind of wrap our session up, I like to end the interview with some quick questions.
Yep.
So whatever comes to mind, just say it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. First off is what's one habit that you think has contributed to your success?
Challenging the mainstream.
Love it. And who do you learn from?
I learn from everyone who has something interesting to say and share.
Nice. And what book or podcast would you recommend to someone who wants to develop in their career?
In their career is quite broad, but if we're talking sales, I have my favorite. So I've got Dave Brock, who's an avid blogger and has written a few big books on sales management. Jason Jordan, who wrote Cracking the Sales Management Code, a must-read for anyone in sales management. And in coaching, there's a guy called Keith Rosen who's written a number of books and is really good. And of course, I would recommend our podcast, The Art and Science of Complex Sales.
A lot of great tips there. And lastly, who do you think should be in the next interview?
How about your CEO on this? I'd like to
That
hear.
would be.
I'd
And
like
it's
to hear.
easy also. Close.
That's easy for you. And I, one guy that pops to mind that has nothing to do with the SaaS industry or anything, but it's Thomas Deming,
Okay.
who his company I think is called the Range Maker, which is kind of a cool name. But he works a lot with process and innovation. Really cool approach to broadening sort of how you think about your business and your processes and your people.
Awesome. I will definitely check him out. Thank you for that. Well, George, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your journey and all your knowledge with us. It has been great listening to.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to not miss future episodes. See you in the next one.